I just woke up and I had a thought, um, because I see people everywhere coping in all of these different ways. I mean, I just thought about that. For example, people who have like extreme social anxiety, and so they feel anxious just going outside of the house, or they feel just anxious about like the smallest thing happening because of probably just things that happened when they were growing up. And I think fixing these emotions is probably easier than we think, actually. I think we might just be overcomplicating it, just speaking from my own experience. Because I think the reason why like you would feel so anxious or just um, whatever like negative emotion that you're like experiencing to like a kind of unhealthy degree. I think the reason why that is happening is simply because you're not really allowing it. And what I really mean by that is you're not acknowledging your how do I say, you're not acknowledging the reasons why you're feeling anxious as valid reasons. Instead, probably you're telling yourself that, okay, I don't have a reason to feel anxious right now. Again, I'm just using anxiety as a example because I think anxiety to one degree or another is probably one example that is very common among people. And I've struggled with some anxiety myself too. Not like to the extreme degree where I cannot even, like I couldn't go into a public place. But I think probably most people know what it's like to at least, for example, be hesitant to ask a stranger something. And I think the way to fix this really is to just acknowledge why you're feeling it and let it be a valid reason, rather than trying to like force yourself by saying things like, okay, this is not a reason to feel anxious. I don't have a reason to feel anxious right now. And it makes sense when you think about it, because like obviously that would only make you more anxious if you did it to like another person, if you did it to a friend, then I think you would know better but to try to force them into a situation that they don't like. I mean, exposure therapy definitely works to some degree, and that's also the approach that I took myself. Like, I just forced myself into situations that made me uncomfortable. But the funny thing is that in my personal experience, doing exposure therapy, it hardened me in a way where, okay, now I can do it, but the anxiety never went away. And I mean, it's okay for the anxiety not to go away completely. I think another big thing is to also stop making these quote unquote negative emotions a problem and like really seeing them as negative. I think that's also one thing that is probably better to not be doing anymore, because this resistance is only it's only reinforcing the pattern, really. It's kind of like when you're not letting it be okay to feel that way, then obviously that's only gonna increase your anxiety, right? Because now you're afraid of being afraid. Like you're anxious about being anxious. Whereas you could just be like, okay, I'm feeling anxious. That's okay. And saying, okay, yeah, that makes sense. This makes sense that I'm feeling this way. Yeah, there's a valid reason for that. And then working from there rather than just telling yourself, okay, no, this doesn't make sense. You're stupid. Why are you feeling this way now? And you shouldn't feel this way, and it's bad, and oh my God, what am I gonna do if I feel this way? As if it's like some kind of disaster that needs to be avoided. Doesn't it make sense that you cannot really fix or like improve that way very, very easily? Something to think about that I think is not really talked about a lot. Like this approach, in a way, obviously there's a lot of people also here on YouTube that will talk about how you should feel your feelings and acknowledge them rather than disregarding them and trying to intellectualize or think your way out of them. But then I think that the people who need to hear it the most, they do not listen to this advice because it does not really make sense to them. They don't really see how it's going to help them to just sit there and feel their feelings and acknowledge them and try to understand them. And so I'm making these videos trying to bring more like clarity and reason to why you should take this approach rather than trying to force yourself into uncomfortable situations. Like the narrative to just force yourself to do things even though you don't feel like it, that narrative is very strong right now in our society. I don't think anyone needs to be told to know that. People like David Goggins will just be like, okay, just don't be a pussy, right? Just keep going. You break your legs, whatever, it doesn't matter. Keep running. I don't think that it's the solution. And I mean, I admire people like David Goggins, of course, but at the same time, I think it's clearly like it's obvious that he's still living in the past where he needs to prove it. Like he needs to prove to himself that he's worthy of admiration and love instead of just letting himself enjoy his life. Personally, I don't want to live like that. Like, I guess it's cool if you do, but I don't think that at the end of the day, you're gonna get that much out of forcing yourself to do certain things. Sure, it's necessary sometimes, or it's good in a lot of ways, and I've done it myself, and I don't regret it or anything. But I think there comes a point in your life where you just have to sit down with yourself and actually work on what is bothering you emotionally and like I should say spiritually, because I think we all want the same things in life, and really unless you address these things within yourself instead of chasing like the external kind of, should we say, symbols, you're not really ever gonna feel that fulfillment and like you've arrived. Like, just speaking from my own experience, I got what I wanted, but then I was so anxious about maintaining it, and I couldn't enjoy. I couldn't enjoy myself, and I couldn't enjoy what I what I achieved, because I was afraid of losing it the whole time. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think you should just work on those feelings, because otherwise you're never gonna really be at peace. Yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Other than that, I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.